It's super cool to be here, and what a great, fun venue. Thank you, Future Plus, for having us here and hosting this. So, yeah, we are talking about gaming experiences, but like brands and integrations and how brands can take advantage of the gaming world right now. The individuals here, the intros were done, but they've each really worked deeply in this to activate with really big brands, Fortune 500 brands, around their innovation and gaming experiences to drive real ROI. So they've really some cool case studies to share today. So I'm super stoked to talk more about this. I'm in digital media and culture, AI, emerging tech, and I work a lot with brands on brand activations with the creator economy. So I'm always interested in how, to innovate the way I sell to brands and build out these experiences as well. And we'll open it up to questions too, since this is an interactive discussion. It's a pretty intimate group here. Why not? Let's make it interactive. Cool. All right. So let's talk about each of you. Have you always been in the gaming space? And at what point did that shift for you building brand experiences in games? We'll start with you.
Yeah, I can start. So my connection with gaming is I grew up as a gamer in the 80s. I don't know. Can I get a show of hands of people out here?
I'm an 80s kid.
Are we all had Nintendo, Sega?
Sega,
right?
yeah.
So that's
Game Boy.
That's my background, but then I founded a production company and focused on video creation and didn't do any type of game design, no development background, and we just did tons of video work for about 10 years, and then the pandemic popped up, and we couldn't be on set anymore, so we couldn't be filming with talent, and I really didn't want to lay anybody off, and I wanted to keep the machine going, so we looked at other areas to do business in and stay afloat, and so we focused on live streaming, so we did a lot of live streaming work, and then we focused on building immersive experiences for brands in platforms like Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite, and we dove really far into Roblox. So working with those same clients and those same brands, but instead of telling their story in video form, we were now building a 3D world for them and adding some gamification. And so that's how I got into it.
That's really cool. I feel like a lot of people got into it during COVID because of this. Simone?
I come from a fashion background, but I moved in through blockchain and Web3. So for me, it was really about understanding ownership and understanding what does creativity look like in a metaverse world? What does consumer behavior and connectivity look like? So the experiences that we generally build are built on some emotional resonance and some cultural moment, so that brands are connecting within their marketing and connecting that to the metaverse experience. So for us, it's always, what does that look like from your marketing channel into your metaverse experience? And everything that we've done has been something that they've had. I am extremely bullish and passionate about gaming. I think that when you're looking at new media or as media in itself, it is the #1 media source for engagement and revenue. It's $321 billion and growing. And it's exciting. I think for me, it's more about the space. I'm sitting beside two legends that are doing incredible things. And it's the idea of, if you think about when television and social media came out, I don't think anyone, if you told somebody from a radio point that you're now going to look at the screen and you're going to see people in it, they probably went, huh? Social media, you're going to be scrolling. No one understood how big it is, and I really think that we're at an inflection point with gaming where it is that big, that there is all this opportunity. It's just that we don't have the infrastructure yet to really kind of measure that, and we were talking about that earlier. But it's such an exciting space, and everyone, I think, on this panel is really trying to disrupt this idea of what gaming is. Gaming is media, period, point blank. It is not a game. It's not like everyone is a gamer at this point to move it into this traditional role. So I think, I'm not speaking for everybody, but this idea of moving past what you think gaming is to understand that as a brand or as a consumer, this is your #1 engagement tool. And that's my TED Talk.
I love that. Yes. All right, Charles.
So I think I got involved. Actually, I feel a bit more ancient than the both of you because
they call it.
I got involved in 2018, which is old school in this space.
That's like Bitcoin.
Yeah, super old school. And I was working at a semi-UK startup production company, but we were advising Facebook at the time. And I actually stole the idea from my company from Facebook, because they were like, gaming is like huge at the moment. And I was just like, oh, why is that? And they came out with this thing called Facebook Gaming. And they're like, yeah, people are watching other people play games on Twitch, and like we got to do that too. And also the other interesting thing is people aren't going into games anymore just to play. They're kind of going into socialize as well. And we're Meta, or back then Facebook, and we own digital social. So if we don't go in here, we're going to be disintermediated in the future. So I was like, that is very interesting. What are the problems? And they were like, there's no data. Like, no one really understands the gaming industry from a data perspective. So that's when I started getting involved and starting GEEIQ to solve that data problem of attribution in virtual worlds. And there's a whole story of where we got to today. But
well, you're here, so
yeah,
where are we today?
Yeah. But I stole the idea. Essentially. I'm not meant to be here.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess with that, since I guess you all brought up a few things. One, gaming, we have this idea of what gaming is, but that's not what it is today. It's moving social, commerce, community. So want to get into that. And then obviously in order to sell that to a brand, to invest in it, there needs to be some sort of ROI, or is the innovation future aspect enough? So I guess, oh God, I just got hit by. So I guess, Charles, for you, let's talk about how the data has evolved and how you're seeing that. What's the picture?
Well, it was so much easier in the early days because it's like, oh, okay, this gaming, I don't really care actually because it's new. The headline. And it was like, why are we going in?
Early adopter, they're just going to get that first headline.
Well, let's get
hit.
Press from this. And this is kind of intersecting with COVID happening as what was being discussed there. And it was, okay, we're new and innovative. We don't really care on the results. We can see a lot of stuff happening.
Got it.
Now it's massively changed. And essentially it's no longer the innovation teams who are in charge of this media, because it is now being portrayed correctly as a media, which means that the difference is you've got to compare the metrics you're getting out in comparison to traditional social media, of which is very challenging.
Yeah, you're comparing that game experience to traditional social media in terms of reach, impressions, everything, and also click-through, or what?
Well, now with Walmart, who's a customer of all of us, now God bless Walmart, we love them.
Thank you.
But they're doing physical commerce in platforms like Roblox, which is. But this is coming in and out. But the platforms themselves are so new; they're not as evolved as social media when it comes to brands. And the other problem is because they originated as games and evolved into a media, their core priority and their core business model is not brands. It's the players. It just so happens that all the eyeballs have moved across in these platforms. I don't know. Maybe someone take the mic from me.
Would love to hear. Yeah, Simone, you're selling brands into this. Let's talk about how that's evolved for you, because you've been part of a lot of, I would say, history-making projects.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think for us, one of the main things, our takeaway, and why we're building our new flagship product, which is PlayNet, very excited about it. When we were building our experience for Walmart and when we activated it, it was the #1 platform, #1 game on spatial. It continued to.
What is it? Can you get
it? It was 50th anniversary of hip hop for its Cultureverse, and we celebrated it with Walmart. It was an incredible experience: art, fashion, music, panels, all the things. And we had the #1 daily average users every day. And when we finished, and I had to do like the data and hand over the report on how we did and tracking, I'm like, we don't know who any of these people were.
Yeah.
Like, who were they? And that's where PlayNet came from. Like, we want to follow the player and the user and create a more of a one-to-one experience where the platform is important, but the player is what's most important to the brand. So if you had 1 million users in your Roblox experience, even if you know a percentage of who they are, if you have other experiences, PlayNet is going to allow you to have interoperability between your different games. We're going to allow you to really reach the player. So now you're rewarding them for their attention. So we're not going to have creepy cookies just running around and scraping your data. No, players will feel that they have influence over the brands, and the brands are incentivizing you to play. And that's, to me, really what's so exciting about gaming. Like, we have the ability to change how media really flows, to change the relationship between a consumer and a brand and make it more value-driven versus just so extractive. And so for us, it's all about brand-player connectivity, using the platforms as a conduit to that.
And so, Nick, let's talk about some of those case studies for you and how they've evolved the business.
Yeah, so we've been really fortunate to work directly with some very large brands across all different verticals. We've all worked with Walmart. That's been great. Thank you, Justin Breton. We've also done work in the beauty space. We've done activations for Sol de Janeiro, and we worked with Rihanna for Fenty. Also fashion brands, Tommy Hilfiger, Aloe Yoga. Worked with different music artists like Elton John, which we worked with the GEEIQ team on. And yeah, I guess you asked about like the evolution. At first it was just like make a world for this brand and like get the engagement. And now the brands are kind of like looking at it, wondering like, what is the ROI? Like, what is the real value for me doing this? And why should I keep doing it? So now I think there's a new demand to figure out how to get the type of engagement that they need and how to measure that, and then how to like pitch that back to them. Because like making another world is like not top of mind at this point.
Yeah, all right, because two things came up as you said that. One, what's the cost at this point for these things? It's not cheap.
No, because it's like
the range.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-code based gaming, UGC gaming platforms, but at the same time, you're making a ton of 3D art from scratch.
Yeah.
You need developers that are native to the platform that understand how to code, and you need a game designer to build the structure. It's like, it's a small team of creatives.
It's like 150 to $500,000.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, 1.5.
Or $1 million to maybe $1 million plus. It depends. But also another thing to keep in mind that's really interesting is like you need to market the marketing, and this is
That's
something
the thing,
that nobody wants to hear. Like none of the marketing teams like, yeah, it's going to cost you $300,000 to make your experience, but then you should spend like $500,000 on the platform to make sure you're getting user acquisition and you're getting the engagement you need. And for most marketers, they're like, wow, that sounds like a nightmare. I don't want to deal with that.
And yeah, and how much are you relying on these platforms? And is it just Roblox, or are there others? Or just Roblox is owning it at this point?
Roblox is great because it's the biggest right now at 90 million daily active users, just under 90. And that's massive. And it's a low barrier to entry, so you can easily go in. It's also one of the oldest, so the tool is very strong. You can really build experiences that you want from a creative standpoint. Some of the newer platforms like Fortnite that just opened up probably like around 2 years ago, maybe less. The tool is just not as advanced. You can't create the same type of experiences. Minecraft is the second largest, but it has its own limitation. It's not like the real world where it's like if you want to advertise in the real world, we have like standardization. Yes. Like you need to out of home. There's rules for that. You
one of the sponsors
TV.
Here. Shout out.
But every time you want to go into a virtual world, a different game, it's totally different rules, different expectations, different limitations. It's like reinventing the wheel every time you do it.
What about you, Simone? Are you looking at other platforms, or is Roblox it?
So for us, it's always interoperability, including like we're bullish on Telegram also. So we do come from a blockchain world, and we are building on chain. So we look at all aspects because it's not one area, it's wherever the players are. Roblox, obviously, from a Web 2 perspective, there's a massive amount. We just heard 90 million daily active users. So for us, that would be ridiculous to leave that on the table. But we look at Fortnite, Minecraft. Our more focus is where are the brands building? Where are they interested? What is the information they want to understand? And then we can create around that. Because it's really more, with our AI agents, we're able to create more of a bespoke campaign. And whether that's within our mini apps that's driving you to your game, or if you don't have a game and you want to create a mini game to test, it's an easier barrier. but it's really more about that player brand experience.
Yeah.
I'd rather Nick build the game because he's way better at that.
Okay. And you're
have the understanding of where we should be building,
Uh-huh.
because that's not where we
and
live.
then where do you live?
We live in the middle part. Once they've been done, then
Okay.
we track the player like a stalker.
All right, there's two things that you brought up. One, what platforms in the Web3 space should people be focusing on then? And is the metaverse still around?
So
Does
I'm
the
going to shout
metaverse
out
still
Sandbox
exist?
because they're also amazing and they're my investor. So shout out to Sandbox. I have no choice.
Oh, yeah,
and we have
Sandbox.
2 games on there. They're still really good, but I think that Web3 games are they're not AAA, they're not UGC. It's a different world, and again, brand new. But anyone that plays Wordle every day, you're gaming. So if you look at it, gaming and the gamification of life is just already prevalent, and then we have these huge platforms.
And I do want to then move into, you brought up the AI buzzword, so I guess you're segging me. Were you going to say something?
Well, I just want to talk about the concept of the metaverse.
Yeah.
You asked, like, is the metaverse dead, right?
Yeah.
So there's a massive confusion and misconception that happened, and that's all thanks to Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. It's all thanks to Charles. It's Charles's fault. No, it was just a half step. You know, it's just too early. I think Meta's done amazing work with headset technology and virtual reality, and I think I'm bullish on the company in general, but it was just too crazy. They just came out the gate and said, it's here. The metaverse is here. VR is amazing. Every person, it doesn't matter how old they are, they're going to have a headset on all day, and he was so wrong. Like, there is a world where we can be there, but we're 5-10 years away, at least. So here's the deal. When we talk about the metaverse, right, the metaverse never was, so it can't be dead. But what we do have is UGC gaming.
Yes.
That is what it is. Don't say the word metaverse anymore. Everyone says UGC gaming, and you can market inside there, and that's everything.
I just think it's kind of it's not a very cool word.
Metaverse?
Metaverse.
I don't know. It sounded somewhat cool, but then
for
it became...
a bit, it's a bit like the internet was called cyberspace before they called it the internet, you know? And I feel like there was like an issue when it came out where everyone just got very, very excited about something that already existed, which was UGC gaming. And the important point to understand is games, as you said, games aren't games as we once knew them. They are now platforms, which means a brand can go into a game and build their own thing. And that's basically what happened. And then from a consumer perspective, gaming isn't solitary anymore, it's now social. So I think that was I don't know, I also don't really like the word anymore.
And then also, I feel... yeah, I mean, I did a story on the Decentraland thing. It was like Friday night and it broke. Like there's 5 people in Decentraland or something. And I posted about it. And I think it was as I was pitching Decentraland for a deal. And I'm like, oh, I might not get this deal anymore.
Yeah, but also don't you find
know,
like the sort of marketing for the platforms is someone running around, literally. In every sort of metaverse, it's always just someone running. What else are you doing in there?
Nothing.
And the amount of museums that were created. And it was just like...
and worlds or people got real estate. At any rate, so that's put aside.
Yeah.
So I guess also let's talk about how important for brands buying things in the game, right? They could sell, people are buying for their avatars. Is that a big thing right now, the commerce, or is that just something that I'm thinking about from an outsider perspective covering this?
Be specific, digital goods or physical goods?
Yes, okay. Digital goods, is that the next thing?
It really depends on what you're talking about, because I remember when we put Gucci in for the first time, and there was a Dionysus handbag, and it sold for more money in Roblox than it did in the real world. That was very exciting, and the markup on that was huge, and everyone went, "Oh my God, this is a new revenue stream." But the reality is the digital goods depend on the virtual economy you're in. So in the sandbox, a digital good is going to be worth a certain amount of money based on scarcity and value, and Roblox is going to be completely different. What does it mean for the player? The same thing, because we're talking about social media. Your Instagram profile is an extension of who you are. So that blue tick, I think it's now democratized because you can buy it, but that blue tick was worth some digital currency. Having a Gucci Dionysus handbag meant something. So It's very important.
And I feel like I've heard this because I don't have a kid, but like if you have kids or you're in Roblox, I mean, they are buying things for their character there, right? Like, because that's how they live and exist, like Gen Z or Gen Alpha.
It's the only way they can self-express on a platform that doesn't have pictures of yourself. I don't know, maybe you guys...
No, I was just about to say that skins outsells Amazon monthly. So when you're looking at like a digital skin or digital goods, half of the, I don't want to say half, but the $321 billion, a large portion of that is the assets, the skins that are being sold within the game.
Yeah.
And I think that from a branding perspective, that's what you're looking like. What is each evolution? For us, what we're excited about is what does it mean, the value relationship between this digital item and a physical item? Like, what does that look like? Do they actually want the physical if they could get it? Is it only in a digital point? For us, again, we always go back to the player behavior and user behavior, the why. Like, why do they want to do this? Why are they doing it? Because I don't think that's really been answered. It's just we're doing it.
Yeah,
this has been done. They come in. GEEIQ may have actually more data on that than me. But these are the things that are getting excited to me for gaming as media, not just gaming. Like, these are the answers where we need for measurable success to understand what that looks and feels like.
Let's get into AI and how that's impacting the work that you're doing and what you're building. How is it, and how are you using AI within this?
I can talk about AI a little bit. So, I mean, the way I see it, there's a misconception right now with AI. If you look at LinkedIn and go to places like that, it's like, oh wow, look, they made an animated short for nothing, right? Or like you can code a game just by asking ChatGPT to do it for you or whatever. And it's like, it's very surface level. Like, I cannot just ask AI to make me a Roblox world that can give the client exactly what they want.
We're not there yet.
It's impossible, and we're definitely not there yet. But it's just another tool. It's like an additional tool that developers and 3D artists should be using to work a little bit faster and get a bit more production value out of it. You know, so it's like you still need a human behind the wheel that's driving, but we're going to see a lot more value come into the space. We're not really going to see a ton of reduction of cost necessarily. That's my perspective on it.
Simone?
For us, we're really looking at it from an AI agent perspective of being able to personalize and customize and really kind of lean into what a marketing campaign would look like within a game. What does the game metric, what is your player really interested from your brand? Or are they? Are they even interested in your brand? Are they more interested over here? And why are they more? I like to ask why a lot. And for us, that's where we're looking at it. Like, our agent is soon going to start running our socials. And that agent is also, the agent that's running our socials will also be in our mini game. And from that, your agent can talk to my agent, and they can hang out, and they can tell you, this is what you should be playing next to up your rewards. Here's the game you should be going in. You should be playing this Roadblocks, and when you come back, you'll get X amount. So to me, this is the excitement. Like, it's, to your point, it's just a tool. I don't think it's replacing anything. It's just giving us, are you okay?
I had a little itch for a second.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's giving us more power. It's like truth to power, the more information we have. Because, again, you could be looking at it one way, and the data, to your point, because this is your whole world, which is amazing, is telling you, nope, that's not actually it. And I think that in this kind of nascent place, like, what I'm excited, I feel like we're building the rails. Like, what is it that we're moving down to start moving everyone in one direction? And it's exciting because it's all brand new, and it really doesn't, there's no one there. So you're like, why? Let's try it.
You could really own it as, I mean,
they're
some of the
already
players.
owning it, as far as I'm concerned, like, they're killing it.
Okay.
I'm trying to just get like a little piece of it.
Oh, you queen, big piece. Okay.
No, I'm gonna take all their pieces.
No,
but-
no, you guys can all share pieces. Am I going to mediate? No. You guys can all share. No.
Only child
Charles.
I'm not
AI.
I'm not an AI expert, so I
Do you integrate it into the data?
Well, of course, we have a development team building our product, and it reduces. Again, not reduces the cost, increases the value per person of what they can do. I think from our customers' perspective, and a lot of the GEEIQ subscribers, what they think is, oh, this means that Nick from Sawhorse is going to charge us less because he can do more with less. And I'm waiting for that to happen as well, but I just don't think we're there yet in terms of how far along it can get to actually reducing costs.
I want to open it up to questions in a second. I do want to know what advice do you have for brands that want to play in this space? And then on the other side, people that are the consultants and the marketers trying to pitch this to the brands. So there's two questions here.
Okay.
Because how many brands are there here? Any brands? Okay. How many builders or creators of it? Yeah.
Okay,
so
builders. So
let's
you're
do
pitching.
let's do each side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I'm incredibly dyslexic. You have to ask me.
I
that
will
again.
do that again.
One by one. It's the first one.
First question. Advice for brands who want to build in this
I'll get
space
the-
on where
okay.
to get started. What, how do you pitch
That's
it
fine.
internally?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is incredibly biased. Take a data-led approach because everyone in C-suite is not really going to understand. They're going to go, Roblox, my kid plays it. Why are we going in?
Isn't that enough? Like if that's your kids, if that's the audience
Depending
they
on
want to
your
hit.
objective, again,
Yeah.
marketing answer, depending on your objective, of course, that's really important. But yeah, exactly. The why should I go in? And that's about looking at your marketing mix and going, what is virtual worlds going to give me more than traditional media? And that requires a lot of thinking, prep work, and data. So that's one point. The second one is I would advise that they don't go in big, they go in small, get results back, and then go big. Very often brands go in big, they kind of risk it all, and then it doesn't work out, or it does work out, it's like a toss of the coin. And then from the second question, which was from a sort of builder perspective.
Yeah, or if you're a marketer consultant and you're trying to pitch these innovative ideas, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're all there, yeah.
I would say take the same approach that a brand would take, which is, okay, so how much are you spending in traditional social media? What are you getting back in terms of engagement? Okay, it's 1.3 seconds per branded content post that you do on social media. It's 11 minutes in Roblox. If it's engagement that you're looking for, this is going to be a better opportunity. So it's about taking budget from already existing marketing space, not conjuring up new budget for something that they're not prepared to venture into. Yeah. It's a replacement.
Love that, Simone.
It's a very interesting question. And I think that one of the challenges is that when we say gaming is new media, then immediately it flags to, oh, so it's like traditional media, and it's really not. Because it is more of a way for your brand to communicate on a connection level. Like you're connecting directly where other than in store, you're not really doing that. So if it's an ad, social media, there's still like a barrier between you, where if you go into store, you're connected exactly there, you're speaking to someone. I feel like when you go into a game, there's that connectivity. So you're able to communicate very differently to your audience. So what is it that you want to communicate? And I think the early adopters were really just trying to future-proof their brand and speak to a younger consumer, a next-gen consumer, that this is their world. Like we talk about it like it's separate. This is just how they live. Similar to like millennials, all they did was social. So each time, this is their natural place to what you said. They socialize in there, they play, and then they watch it. So it's not like they leave. As much as they play, they watch. So when you're looking at it as a brand, what are your KPIs? What is it you're trying to get out of this game? I don't know that they should ever look at it in replacing budget, to your point, or finding budget, because it's vastly different. So if you're going for revenue, that's probably not the way for you to go. If you're going for engagement and for your brand to be recognizable within a different audience, obviously this is where you need to be at.
Affinity and loyalty and building that credibility.
Credibility, and as you move, this is why I also think like Walmart, shout out Justin, has done such a great job because they're everywhere, and for them it's data, engagement, repositioning what Walmart is. Like, I don't think people would say Walmart is an innovation company. I personally think it's one of the most innovative brands because they're always first to try. And their size and scale allows them to move in that direction. Yeah. And when you look at other brands that should be more innovative, they're like, I'm not sure about this. So their goals align with what the gaming media will give them. But I'm sure Nick can talk about like unaligned
Take some risks too.
expectations.
And how long does it take to build one of these things? Do you say like, is it a 6-month window? Like we're going to do this in 6 months.
It's less. It could be like 2 to 4 months.
Even with a marketing plan and
Oh
marketing
yeah,
all that.
it's all
Okay.
happening in at the same time in parallel.
The advice question.
The advice question, well, I agree with what my co-panelists have said here. I fully back that. But I think just taking one step back, it really is about education. They have to understand these spaces. They have to understand why they should be there. I understand and realize the importance of being there. If you just think about like the oldest rule in marketing and advertising is meet them where they're at. Right? So if younger people are not watching TV, they're not listening to the radio, they're not going to the movies that often, they're playing tons of games, tons of social games, spending more time on social media, you have to be there. The social media part is covered. Most brand marketers understand that. Most brands know how to work with influencers and make impact there. And prove attribution and study data, and it's all been benchmarked to traditional media. It's the gaming side that I think a lot of the older CMOs didn't grow up as gamers. And for them, they're like, I don't know, it's weird gaming stuff. It's my kid does weird Roblox stuff. I don't know. They're not taking it that seriously. They don't understand that in 10, 20 years from now, that is going to be the predominant form of entertainment. And if you don't know how to market there, you're going to be obsolete. And I would just shamelessly plug my podcast. I do a podcast about immersive marketing. It's weekly, and we interview all these leaders in the space, from the brand side to the builder side. And my co-host is from GEEIQ, Alban. She's fantastic. So please check it out. I got cards after this. I'll hand them out to you.
Yeah, love it.
I wasn't invited to.
Okay, well, on that note,
Wait,
you'll be
there's a
invited. This was the
podcast?
test. This was
And he's
exactly.
Fine.
So, any questions? Yes, I know you always have.
First of all, I'm Cass Vegas. I'm from Hawaii, so I came a long way to come here. Shout out to Ashumi and Future House and everyone for putting this together. I thought it was a fantastic panel. Really appreciated the knowledge everyone shared. My question is around a chicken and the egg type of scenario. Could you maybe give an example or two about when the users are attracting the brands to come in, or when the brands attract and then the users come in? So I'm sure there's examples on each side.
The Sandbox is the third largest virtual world platform when it comes to number of brand integrations, and probably the 50th smallest when it comes to daily active users. So, sorry, that was probably quite a confusing way of answering that question. But essentially, it's the community that attracts the community, and brands follow eyeballs. So it's not chicken, or I don't know what came first, chicken or egg, but whatever. It's basically community first, then brands follow community. And sometimes brands and IP can attract community, but if there's no community there in the first place, you're in trouble.
Yeah. I think it's also the type of brand. So some brands have really built-in fandom. So if you look at like a Nike, their fandom is ravenous. Or if you look at like FIFA or certain like sports, their fandom is so built in that they do follow and move.
Like
But
Star Wars or Star Trek, I feel like they'll
like
go
there's
into
certain, but
maybe.
I would say the general rule is that brands are not driving community. They're looking for community within. So when you look at a Roblox, 90 million daily users, that's where we need to be. So if you have the community, and that's what they have, and that's where your power comes from. Being able to say, oh, activate here, or create the tools to make sure that wherever they're activating, they're empowered by that.
And how much are you working with the platforms? Because it seems like it's not like you could just drop in and like, hey, there's a lot of people here. Like there's strategy. Like I'm assuming process-wise, you have a brand that is interested, you're pitching, you're going to bring in one of these platforms to do a strategic partnership too, right? Or how does that work? Don't they need to know that you're there to like do something, or what?
Yeah.
And the budget.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also it goes back to what I was saying earlier about you have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And I think Charles mentioned this, but like the primary goal of these platforms is to create a great game experience it's not to work with the brands. So some platforms lean in directly and want to partner with you, and they want to say, great, we're going to support this. We're going to like make sure this brand activation does really well. Other platforms just don't even care. They'll like leave you in the cold and be like, you deal with it with your brand. Some platforms have ad products that were like, give us half the budget so we can run media. Others don't have any ad products. You know, like I'm activating across like 4 or 5, 6 of these, and everyone's completely different. You know, that you cannot take the same approach across the board.
And then with that said, if you're looking at these platforms for the community, how are you even doing your social marketing? I mean, is it just like a few posts because it doesn't even matter? Because that audience doesn't even really go there. Is it just more for show for the recap report and those impressions, right?
So
Sorry to get like too in the weeds on it, but this is like fascinating to me.
You're using community to amplify what you're doing, and it's really important to work with the correct community members. So if you're doing a Fortnite activation, it's really embarrassing if you get a Roblox gamer to amplify your Fortnite thing. So in that respect, like traditional social media, there's so many billions of hours of content of that UGC platform being viewed on traditional social media. So you've got to use that to draw more traffic into your experience. So it's super important. And to create assets too.
Yeah, and just to give an idea, to give a real-world example use case of that.
Love it, yeah.
We just finished a project, Sawhorse, my company. We worked with Warner Brothers to bring the new film Mickey 17 into Fortnite. And we didn't build a world from scratch and say, oh, come play the Mickey game. The whole concept was, how can we get as much impressions as possible? And we had a very fast timeline. We did this in like less than a month. It was crazy. So what we did is we just kept it simple. We're like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie. Super cool sci-fi film. It came out yesterday. And essentially the story is the character, he signs up for a program to help humanity by making himself he can replicate himself out of a machine, and he goes out and he like dies and learns something, and then they take the data back and they print him out again and again and again. So we were just like, okay, well, we have 4 weeks. We got to figure this entire thing out. We don't have a lot of money. We got to make a big splash. So our thought was, let's integrate the Mickey 17 lore and IP into like a popular game on the Fortnite platform. So we found this game, minigame box PvP, which is one of the top ones. And then from a creative standpoint, we created a little game type where he gets spit out and he's like your bodyguard. And so you're working with him and he's fighting, and it's like an elimination game. And when he dies, you can spawn another one. So everyone has a Mickey and they're all dying constantly. So we got a ton of engagement with that just because the game itself had tons of concurrent users. But to Charles's point, we also partnered with the Twitch the streamers that are big in that game, and we even got the actor Robert Pattinson to play along with that. And so so it's like the amplification beyond the platform is huge.
Yeah, you killed it. Congrats. That's awesome.
Honestly, this is the thing that is completely changed now, and it's because I also think it's because it's moved from innovation to marketing teams because their budgets are campaign based and they're localized. So they want short campaigns that are very fast. They're called integrations, essentially. It's not about building your own world. It's about integrating into an already existing experience, and that. This year, or this last 2024, was the first time there were more integrations than there were owned worlds. And this trend is just going to continue and continue and continue.
Cheaper too, probably.
Yeah, and
from scratch.
You can attach the budget to the campaign.
Actually, you're right. The spend is different, yeah. Any other questions before we wrap? I don't even know when we're supposed to wrap, but I'm going by the natural flow of the convo. So future, anything just like before we go, one, future forecasting, anything like that people should be looking forward to check out, right? Keeping their eye on when it comes to this, if they're interested in this space, and also anything you want to promote, little self-promotion stuff.
Yeah, okay, self-promotion.
Now, first, though, because you're my future forecasting.
Okay,
anything people should. You kind of touched on it. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is there's one platform that everyone likes to diss, which is what we actually dissed at the start, which was Meta. And for me, Yeah, basically the idea that I stole. I actually think that they are a sleeping giant waiting to dominate the entire industry, and I am
Well, you think they're quiet? Have they been quiet lately?
No.
Yeah.
It's in, like, no one's going into Meta Horizons Worlds.
Yes.
It's like no one's in there. But the moment they integrate that into meta apps like Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, essentially they've got 4 billion monthly active users. And on Instagram, you'll see follow, message, and enter. And that is very, very difficult for Roblox and all of these other platforms to compete with. So in terms of forecasts, I would watch Meta very, very closely and take them very, very seriously.
And they're actually doing some grants for funding for builders and that. I
and
posted
you would
about
have
it.
seen they've just recently released a $50 million creator program where they are going for all of the creators to build on their network. And it's not the brands that they're after first, further to your question, it's the community to create the content, and they are going hard. So I think that they are, as I said, they are a giant, they're a sleeping giant, but they are definitely ones to watch. It's going to take time, but I'm very bullish on them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess we'll do self-promo after. Yeah, Simone, forecast.
The future is playable. I think I agree with exactly what for us, the future is playable, and gaming is an always-on opportunity. How it's going to translate, I agree with you that it is going to be more integrations, because they're really looking for community first. And then building your own world makes no sense without measurable data, and that's the part that I think we're all saying, like, the why of it all. Yeah. And so I personally see that there will be more personalization. I think even within the UGC world, brands are going to want to understand players more. Shameless plug for PlayNet. And that's going to be able to give them more understanding to say, oh, we're ready to build our game now because we do understand this market. We understand these players. Or maybe they don't. I would also love, and maybe this is just a dream of mine, for the idea of when you say gaming, for it not to immediately represent this guy down in his basement. When someone says gamer, the fastest growing gaming demographic is plus 50 women.
Yes.
And because they're on mobile, this has changed the game. And so I would really love people to have a more expansive understanding of what gaming is.
And I feel like even what you said, Telegram is an opportunity too. Yeah.
They have as much daily active users as anybody else.
Yeah. All right, you.
Me.
Finally.
Last
Nick.
one. I feel like over the next couple years, all of these UGC gaming platforms are going to figure out how to work with brands and sell media inside them at scale. If you look at what Meta did with Instagram and Facebook, it's like they had this great social media platform with tons of engagement, and they figured out a business model to sell media and work with brands and ads. And I feel like the UGC gaming community and those platforms, they're behind, but they need to replicate that model and roll it out at scale. I think you're going to see that over the next couple of years.
And where can people find you, Nick? Nick, where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Nick Hill. My company is Sawhorse, and my podcast is Brands in Play.
Any last plugs?
Simone Barry, LinkedIn, POC Lab, Playnet.zxy. No, what is it?
XYZ?
XYZ. I really prefer .io, but it was gone. And shameless plug to my CTO is amazing.
Yeah,
Like
CTO.
incredible things. So shout out to Alicia.
Shout out, Alita. Okay, so Charles Hambro, Geek, GEEIQ, not GEIQ. People call us GEIQ all the time. It really annoys me. And plug would be to download our latest report, all of the data that we discussed, state of brands in virtual experiences in gaming. Download it. It's really interesting.
Amazing. And give it up for our panelists. Thank you for having us.
you.
I'm Shira Lazar.
Shout out to Shira for doing such an incredible job moderating.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Shuni for.
I have a
amazing.
weekly newsletter, The Alpha, where I get into trends in the creator economy, AI, and Web3. Check it out. Link in my bio at Shira Lazar. And I just started a new podcast. I launched it this week called The AI Download. Audio video series. Check it out.
Everyone has a podcast. Do we need
gonna
a
do
podcast?
a
It's an audio video
We're
series.
gonna create a
I'm not using the word
podcast.
podcast anymore. Audio video series. Anyway, all right. Have a great rest of your time. Thanks for having us. Bye.
Thank you.